Does that spooky thing not work? I mean, it works on everything. I did that in another video, and now I realize it's like you can just, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like there I was like very like, I was like A major, right? But at times I was trying to be more E pentatonic, right? And that was just to give it a little different sound, a little different flavor over some of those chords, so you can really get away with it very easily in some of that progression. But you always go back here. That always works. It's like it always like, whoa, what's that? It's always this other flavor, right? It's like a very particular flavor, you know? Like it's like a very particular favorite flavor, like water chestnut. You ever have water chestnuts in something you're eating? It's like, you know, it's water chestnut. There's only one food I dislike in the world, it's water chestnut, but I like that part. But I couldn't think of anything else. You know what I mean? That's cool. I dig that, man. I really dig that. Dudes, today we're talking about taming the high end. And you see I got this old 64 Guild out, and I want to talk to you about something. All I'm doing is I'm taking a standard cue. I'm going to toggle this on and off. You can do this on any modeler, how to tame the high end on any modeler. And the thing you got to understand before I show you what it sounds like is this. Think of your sound, think of your like EQ, or think of your tone as an EQ, okay? And I kind of learned this from shooting a lot of IRs and stuff. Think of your tone as an EQ and picture that EQ. Go like, oh, Marshall, I got like high mids and high. See, it's going to be reversed for you guys because it's the whole mirror camera thing, right? But like higher treble, right? And then there's like high mids. There's going to be a scoop in the low mids, and there's going to be like some good bass, right? And then like a Vox is going to have more like low end growl, but there'll be high mids and high stuff, but like not a lot of bass on the bottom. And then like a Fender, it's going to have pretty scoopy mids until you get up to like, you know, like all around 1,000 and 700 and everything. That's all going to be real scooped, and you're going to get this nice present airiness up here, right? There's all these different things, right? Deluxe is going to have a little more mid-range in there for the Fenders. And you've got all that. And when you put the tube screamer, it's like, whoa, all of a sudden I got my thing. Boom, there's like this big wedge now. There's this big like pyramid of mids. You know, that's like my tube screamer right around the 550 range. It peaks, you know. I guess, I don't know. It's what it sounds like. It sounds more like a megaphone, like that, you know what I mean? But picture your sound like that EQ. And the shape of that squiggly line is like what gives you the tone, right? You could make that whole line louder or softer, right? You could bring all that whole squiggle EQ, you could bring it up or down, and that's increasing or lowering the volume. And when you high and low cut, you take just the ends and now you dip them down like this. You get rid of those frequencies. So now you get a rounder tone. So by definition, the more you bring in those highs and low cuts, the more mid-range is going to get because you're taking off highs and lows, right? So one thing you can do when you talk about high end is you don't want to dip your high end to get rid of it. You want to dip an offensive frequency if there's something offensive. But a lot of times when you're dealing with a bright amp or a dark amp or whatever, what you really want to do is pick a point and raise all the frequencies up or down. Because what you're really trying to do when you're trying to either tame highs or lift the highs up, right, bring out highs, is you're really trying to control the volume of just those higher frequencies. And so the proper way to do that is not going to be with a shelf. It's not going to be with, like an EQ that's going to like have a point and go up. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be, sorry, I said it's not, I meant to say it's not going to be a cut. I meant to say it is going to be a shelf. And that's what we're going to use. We're going to use a shelf. So on any modeler, right, just take your high end, take like a high, you can use a graphic EQ, and you can just say, okay, from 2000 and up, I'm going to up every graphic EQ frequency it gives me. I'm going to raise it up to dB, right? Or if you have a studio EQ, like a lot of studio style EQs or anything that has like a mid-range Q, right? Or like a mid-range Q or whatever, if it has highs and lows, you'll notice the high and low controls rarely have Qs on them. And the reason for that is they're shelves. They're shelves and not like bumps, you know? So what you are able to do is you want to pick your frequency point, and then everything from there up or there down, depending on if it's treble or bass, you have control over. So all I'm doing is this. I am picking a point in the sand, okay? And my point is 2,500. To me, that's treble, okay? So we're going to go treble and up, right? And all I'm going to do is duck it, right? Or I'm going to decrease it by 3 dB. We're not going to change the sound of the amp. We're just going to take from a point up and lower all of those frequencies without changing the shape of the EQ, which is going to tell your ear that's the same amp. That's the same tone. It doesn't go from Vox to Marshall, Marshall to Vox. It doesn't go Fender to, I don't know, Bender. It just tells your ear it's something else. So here it is without it. Here's some high end that may need to be tamed, right? And I chose a mellow guitar just so you can hear this, you know? Now, let's put on a little bit of that high-end tamer. Let's take it off for a minute. It adds a lot of bite by having nothing there, but when I take off some of that high end, it's just a bit mellower. It's still bright, man. You wouldn't listen to that and be like, man, what a mellow tone. No way. So, find that shelf. It's probably in a studio EQ or like a Pultec style or whatever. If you've got bass, treble, and 2 or 3 middle controls, that's your shelf. Use the shelves. You might on the Helix, I think you got high and low shelf. You know, try that. It's not a cut. It's not a pass. That'll cut everything down to 0 across a certain amount of octaves. You know, you don't want to do that. Maybe you do, but not for this, right? Let's go to the middle. You want the shelf, all right? Check this out. Here's the middle now with nothing on the sound. It's a bright amp. Bright there, right? Now here is a little more mellow. It's just not as much. Takes off a bit of that sparkle, you know, and you don't have as much pop when you go like this. Right? Here's with that cut. If you're on just a phone, you might not really be able to hear this that well because everything's going through another EQ that takes out a lot of the bass and adds a lot of the high end, depending on your phone, right? So here's the bridge. This is where I think it's really useful. Here's a bridge, and it almost becomes telly-like when you have an amp that's very bright and you have something with a good amount of brightness. You almost go, is that a telly? Okay, here is same bridge position, but with that high end just tamed up a little bit. Take that high end cut off. Neither way is bad. It's just, what do you want? let's put on a little dirt. I'm going to put two dirt pedals on together. This is like a blues breaker and a tube screamer on. Little tube screaming action. Let's tame the high end. Okay, that's the neck, right? So let's take that off for a minute so you can hear the high end. Still tube screamy, still thick, but listen. I got a little more attack right there, right? When I take it off. It's just a little more rolled off. Here's on the bridge with no high end at all, no high end cut at all. Smooth it out with that high end cut. There we go. I keep calling it a cut. And see how I have this bad habit of calling it a cut? Because you always call it like a high-end cut. Cut the highs, cut the lows. But see, even I'm falling victim to it. But you really want to think of it like a shelf, because to me, this leaves your guitar tone a little more intact. And it means you have those, it sounds natural to have those upper present frequencies. So you got all that high-end information. Just smooth it out a little bit. Don't get rid of all the high-end. Don't get rid of everything. Just bring it down in relation to other stuff. Smooth it out a bit. I don't know, to me, that's just how you get a very natural, like, high-end cut. Just think about taking that shelf and just pulling it down a little bit. Now it's mellowed. As opposed to getting rid of stuff. We don't need to get rid of our friends. High-end is our friend.